The cargo ship's doors hissed open with a sound that made Chief Researcher Nala's skin crawl. She had seen many specimens arrive at Research Station Omega-7 over her career, but never anything from the recently discovered planet called Earth. The shipping manifest listed 2 items, one Mellivora capensis and one Homo sapiens juvenile. Nala adjusted her scanner and watched as the transport crew wheeled out 2 containment units. The first was a standard biocage, heavily reinforced with what looked like fresh welding marks. Inside, a black and white creature about the size of a small dog paced back and forth. Its movements were odd, not the frantic energy of a frightened animal, but something more calculating. The second container held a small human child, maybe 12 Earth years old according to the files. The boy sat quietly in the corner of his transparent holding cell, watching everything with bright blue eyes. His brown hair was messy, and he wore simple Earth clothes that looked too big for him. Commander Reth approached the containers with his usual swagger. He was the kind of alien who believed the universe owed him respect simply because he existed. His purple skin gleamed under the station lights as he examined their new arrivals. "So these are the legendary aggressive species of Earth," Reth said, tapping the glass of the boy's container. The child looked up at him without fear, which surprised Nala. Most specimens showed some level of stress when first arriving. The smaller one is called a honey badger, Nala read from her tablet. Reports indicate extreme aggression, problem-solving abilities, and resistance to conventional containment methods. The human child was acquired from the same region. Our intelligence suggests humans form pack bonds with other Earth species. Reth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Pack bonds? Look at them. The furry one is barely bigger than my foot, and the human is just a scared little creature. Our conditioning protocols will have them ready for military deployment within 6 weeks." The transport supervisor, a nervous-looking alien with too many eyes, stepped forward. "Sir, I should mention that we had some difficulties during transport." "What kind of difficulties?" Nala asked. "Well, the honey badger escaped its original container 3 times. Each time it used a different method. First, it somehow manipulated the lock mechanism. Then it chewed through a reinforced wall panel. The 3rd time..." The supervisor paused, looking embarrassed. "The 3rd time it convinced our ship's cleaning drones to help it." Commander Reth waved dismissively. "Transport containers are not designed for containment. Our facilities here are built to hold creatures far more dangerous than anything Earth can produce." As if responding to his words, the honey badger suddenly stopped pacing and looked directly at Reth. Its black eyes seemed to study him for a long moment before it turned away, apparently losing interest. The human boy, who had been silent until now, spoke up. His voice was small but clear. "His name is Badger." "It speaks," Reth said with amusement. "How convenient. What is your name, little human?" "Sam," the boy replied. "And he doesn't like being called it." Nala made a note on her tablet. The human was already showing protective behavior toward the other specimen. This could be useful for their research, or it could complicate things. "Take them to processing level 7, Reth ordered. "Begin standard evaluation procedures tomorrow. I want full behavioral assessments, intelligence testing, and aggression measurements. The Hegemony High Command is expecting results from this project." As the transport crew began moving the containers toward the processing center, Nala noticed something odd. The honey badger had positioned itself at the front of its cage, facing the direction they were moving. It wasn't just being transported. It was observing the route, memorizing the turns and doorways. The human child, Sam, was doing the same thing. His head turned to track each security camera, each access panel, each intersection they passed. For a scared little creature, he seemed remarkably interested in the station's layout. "Commander," Nala said quietly, "perhaps we should review the transport difficulties more carefully. If these specimens are as problematic as the supervisor suggests..." "Nonsense," Reth interrupted. "We have successfully conditioned specimens from 47 different worlds. A small Earth mammal and a juvenile human will present no challenges we cannot handle." They reached processing level 7, a sterile white area filled with examination equipment and monitoring devices. The containers were placed in separate but adjacent holding cells, each equipped with the most advanced security systems the station could provide. As the transport crew departed, Nala activated the holding cell monitoring systems. Immediately, dozens of screens came to life, showing every angle of both specimens' new homes. The honey badger walked the perimeter of its cell once, then sat down in the center, and appeared to go to sleep. Sam explored his cell more thoroughly, testing the walls and examining the food and water dispensers. He moved like someone who was used to figuring out how things worked. "Begin observation logs," Nala commanded the computer system. "Record all behaviors for analysis." Over the next several hours, both specimens seemed to settle into their new environment. The honey badger slept, ate the provided food, and used the waste facilities without incident. Sam did the same, though he spent more time examining his surroundings. It wasn't until the station's night cycle that things became interesting. Nala was reviewing the day's recordings when an alarm chimed softly. One of the monitoring screens showed Sam standing at the front of his cell, making small gestures with his hands. At first she thought he was just fidgeting, but then she noticed the pattern. In the adjacent cell, the honey badger was awake and watching Sam intently. Every few seconds it would move to a different position in its cell, as if responding to the boy's gestures. "Computer, are the specimens communicating?" Nala asked. "No verbal communication detected," the computer replied. "However, there are patterns in their movements that suggest intentional signaling." Nala frowned. She had expected some level of pack-bonding behavior, but this seemed more sophisticated than simple social comfort. The human child was teaching the honey badger something, or perhaps learning from it. She made another note in her files. Subjects show immediate communication establishment. Recommend monitoring for coordinated behavior. As she watched, Sam sat down near the wall that separated his cell from the honey badger's. The animal moved to the corresponding position on its side. They remained like that for the rest of the night cycle, close but separated. Two Earth creatures far from home. Nala had studied hundreds of species over her career. She knew the signs of simple pack bonding, territorial behavior, and stress responses. What she was seeing here felt different. These two weren't just companions, they were already planning something. The thought should have worried her more than it did. 3 weeks into the conditioning program, Senior Technician Brix was seriously considering a career change. Maybe farming on one of the peaceful agricultural worlds would be better than dealing with these impossible Earth creatures. The morning started like every other morning since the specimens arrived. Brix entered Laboratory Wing C expecting to find the honey badger, designated Subject B47, in its reinforced containment unit. Instead, he found a hole in the wall roughly the shape of a honey badger, and Subject B47 sitting calmly in the middle of the laboratory, eating what remained of a very expensive piece of scanning equipment. "How?" Brix asked the empty air. "How does it keep doing this?" This was the 18th escape in 3 weeks. Each time, the honey badger used a completely different method. It had picked electronic locks chewed through metal walls, somehow convinced maintenance robots to open doors, and once, incredibly, used a complex series of ricochets to bounce a food pellet off several surfaces and hit the emergency release button. The human child, Sam always claimed he had no idea how the honey badger escaped. He would sit in his own cell looking innocent while chaos erupted around them. But Brix was beginning to suspect the truth was more complicated. "Computer, show me last night's security footage," Brix said, stepping carefully around the honey badger. The animal looked up at him with what could only be described as smugness before returning to its breakfast of destroyed electronics. The footage showed Sam's cell from multiple angles. Around midnight, the boy had begun making those strange hand gestures again. But this time, Brix noticed something the automated systems had missed. Sam wasn't just moving his hands randomly. He was pointing to specific spots on his cell wall, then to corresponding spots on the honey badger's containment area. "Computer, analyze the pattern of the human's hand movements from last night." After a few seconds, the computer responded, "Hand movements correspond to structural stress points in Subject B47's containment unit. Probability of intentional instruction, 94.7%. Brix felt his stomach drop. The human child was teaching the honey badger where to attack the walls for maximum effect. A 12-year-old was outthinking their best security engineers. The door to the laboratory slid open, and Chief Researcher Nala entered, looking as frustrated as Brix felt. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, and her tablet showed what looked like endless lists of damage reports. "Status report," she said, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Subject B47 has escaped again," Brix reported. This time it appears to have consumed approximately 30,000 credits worth of neural conditioning equipment. Nala closed her eyes and rubbed her temples. Commander Reth is not going to be pleased. The project budget has already tripled and we haven't made any progress with the actual conditioning protocols. As if summoned by the mention of his name, Commander Reth's voice boomed over the intercom system. All senior staff to Conference Room Alpha immediately. We need to discuss the Earth specimen situation. Brix looked at the honey badger, which had finished eating the scanner, and was now examining a wall panel with obvious interest. Should we secure subject B-47 first? With what? Nala asked. We've tried everything. Standard containment, reinforced containment, energy barriers, even that experimental gravity well system. Nothing holds it for more than 6 hours. They left the honey badger in the destroyed laboratory and hurried to the conference room. Commander Reth was pacing behind the main table, his purple skin darker than usual, always a bad sign. Explain to me, Reth said without preamble, how 2 primitive Earth creatures have managed to cost us more than our last 3 research projects combined. Nala activated her tablet and began reading from her reports. The honey badger has escaped 18 times, causing approximately 400,000 credits in damage. Each escape method is unique, suggesting advanced problem-solving capabilities far beyond our initial assessments. And the human child? Sam appears cooperative during testing, but we suspect he's been providing assistance to subject B-47. Our conditioning protocols aren't working on either specimen. The neural mapping technology can't establish stable patterns with the human brain. It's too chaotic and unpredictable. And the honey badger seems completely immune to behavioral conditioning. Reth slammed his fist on the table. These are animals from a primitive world. How can they be outsmarting technology that has successfully conditioned specimens from 47 other planets? Before anyone could answer, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. The intercom crackled to life. Security breach in Laboratory Wing C. All personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat, all personnel evacuate Laboratory Wing C. Through the conference room's windows, they could see the laboratory wing in the distance. Smoke was pouring from several windows and emergency lights were flashing. As they watched, a section of the exterior wall simply fell away, revealing the honey badger standing in the opening like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's impossible, Brix whispered. The structural integrity of that wall should withstand direct plasma cannon fire. The honey badger looked around, apparently deciding which direction to explore next. It chose left and disappeared from view, heading toward the station's main power grid. Reth's communicator buzzed. He answered it with visible reluctance. Yes? Sir, this is Engineering Chief Koro. Whatever that creature is doing down here, it's causing massive system failures. It somehow got into the primary power distribution center and is... Well, sir, it appears to be redecorating. Redecorating? It's rearranging the power conduits, sir. I don't understand how it knows which ones to move, but it's actually improving the efficiency of our power grid, while simultaneously making it impossible for us to access the emergency shutdown controls. The lights in the conference room flickered, went out completely for a moment, then came back on brighter than before. Sir, Koro continued, I hate to say this, but I think the creature understands our power systems better than we do. These modifications would take our best engineers weeks to plan, and it's doing them in real time. Commander Reth's skin had turned almost black with rage. Find it and contain it immediately. About that, sir. We can't actually get into the power center anymore. The creature has somehow locked us out using our own security systems. And sir, there's something else. We're picking up communication signals from the human child's cell. Simple pattern bursts, but they seem to be coordinated with the honey badger's activities. Nala looked at her tablet, which was now showing real-time updates from Sam's cell. The boy was sitting calmly, but his hand movements were definitely following a pattern. Every few seconds he would make a specific gesture, and moments later they would hear a new sound from the direction of the power center. They're working together, she said quietly. The human is providing guidance and the honey badger is implementing whatever plan they've developed. Reth stared at the reports on his screen, watching their budget climb higher and higher as damage reports flooded in. How is this possible? They're just animals. Maybe, Nala said thoughtfully. That's our problem. We keep thinking of them as just animals, but what if there's something else entirely? What if Earth produces species that don't fit our standard categories? The power flickered again, and this time when it came back on, the station's air recycling system was running noticeably quieter and more efficiently. Somewhere in the depths of the station, a honey badger was improving their life support systems while simultaneously making it impossible for them to regain control of their own facility. Brix looked out the window toward Sam's cell. The boy was still making his careful hand signals, apparently giving instructions to a creature that was somewhere else entirely, doing things that should have been impossible. "Sir," Brix said quietly, "I think we need to consider the possibility that we're not training these specimens. They're training us." Dr. Voss had earned her reputation as the galaxy's leading expert in behavioral conditioning by never backing down from a challenge. She had successfully trained creatures that most people considered impossible to work with: energy beings from the Void Nebula, hive-mind insects from the Crystal Worlds, even the notoriously stubborn rock-eaters from Granite Prime. But standing in the ruins of what used to be Research Station Omega-7's most advanced laboratory, she was beginning to wonder if Earth creatures were simply beyond the laws of normal psychology. "Show me the damage assessment again," she said to junior researcher Pip, who was nervously clutching a tablet that kept updating with new cost calculations. 2 million credits in the past month, Pip reported. The honey badger has now escaped from 43 different containment systems, including several that were supposedly theoretically impossible to breach. And the human child? What about the human child? Pip scrolled through his files. Sam's test scores are unlike anything we've seen. His pattern recognition abilities are off the charts, but not in the way we expect. Instead of following logical sequences, he seems to find connections that our computers can't even calculate. Yesterday's puzzle that stumped our AI systems? He solved it in 12 minutes. Dr. Voss nodded grimly. She had reviewed the recordings herself. The boy didn't solve problems the way other species did. He seemed to understand systems on a level that bypassed normal logical processes entirely. And they're still communicating? Constantly. We separated them to different levels of the station, but it doesn't matter. Sam makes his hand signals and somehow the honey badger receives the information. We don't understand the mechanism. The truth was worse than Pip knew. Dr. Voss had brought in specialists from across the galaxy, telepathy experts, communication theorists, even mystics who claimed to understand impossible phenomena. None of them could explain how a human child was coordinating activities with a creature that was currently 17 levels away and supposedly completely isolated. Commander Reth entered the destroyed laboratory with his usual dramatic flair, but Dr. Voss could see the stress lines around his eyes. The project was supposed to have been his ticket to promotion. Instead, it was becoming a career-ending disaster. "Status report, Dr. Voss," Reth demanded. "The subjects continue to resist all conditioning attempts," she replied. "However, I have a new theory about why our standard protocols are failing." "I'm listening." Dr. Voss activated a holographic display showing brain scans from various species. "Every creature we've successfully conditioned has predictable neural patterns. Their brains follow logical pathways that our technology can map and influence. But look at this." She highlighted Sam's brain scan. The neural activity looked like a constantly shifting storm of connections, with patterns that seemed to change even as they watched. The human brain doesn't follow standard patterns. It's constantly creating new pathways, adapting, evolving. Our conditioning technology can't establish a stable target because there is no stable target. And the honey badger? Even stranger. Its brain is much smaller, but the neural density is incredible. And here's the interesting part. When we scan both subjects simultaneously, their brain activities show synchronized patterns despite being physically separated. Reth studied the scans with growing frustration. "You're telling me these two creatures have somehow developed a mental connection that defies known science?" "I'm telling you that Earth species might operate on principles we don't understand. And sir, there's something else. The honey badger isn't just escaping randomly anymore. It's exploring the station systematically, learning our technology." As if to emphasize her point, an alarm began sounding from the station's communication center. Through the intercom came the panicked voice of Communications Officer Dell. "This is the comm center. The honey badger is in here and it's operating our equipment." Dr. Voss and Reth rushed to the communication center, followed by Pip and several security officers. What they found defied explanation. The honey badger was standing on the main console, using its claws to manipulate controls with surprising precision. On the screens around the room, various station systems were displaying information that should have been classified. How long has it been in here? Reth demanded. About 10 minutes, Dell reported. It bypassed 3 security checkpoints to get here. But sir, that's not the strangest part. Look at what it's accessed. The main screen showed a detailed schematic of the station's layout, complete with security protocols, maintenance schedules, and personnel assignments. The honey badger had somehow navigated their database system and compiled a comprehensive intelligence report. It's been studying us, Dr. Voss said quietly, learning our weaknesses, our schedules, our capabilities. The honey badger looked up at them with what could only be described as satisfaction, then calmly walked to the ventilation grate in the corner of the room. With practiced ease, it removed the grate and disappeared into the air duct system. Security, track that creature, Reth ordered. Sir, we've been trying to track it for weeks, the security chief replied. It knows our sensor grid better than we do. Half the time it's moving through areas we didn't even know existed. Back in his cell, Sam was drawing on the walls with a piece of food. At first glance, it looked like random scribbles. But Dr. Voss recognized some of the patterns. They matched the station schematics the honey badger had just accessed. Computer. Analyze the drawings in the human cell, she commanded. Drawings appear to be architectural modifications, the computer reported. The designs would significantly improve station efficiency while creating numerous security vulnerabilities. Dr. Voss felt a chill run down her spine. Security vulnerabilities? The proposed modifications would create a network of hidden pathways, accessible only to small creatures, while simultaneously improving power flow and life support efficiency. He's not just drawing, she whispered. He's designing. The boy is redesigning our entire station. Reth grabbed her arm. What are you saying? I'm saying we've made a terrible mistake. We thought we were studying primitive creatures, but they've been studying us. The honey badger's escape, Sam's test performances, even the damage they've caused. It's all been research. They're learning everything about our technology, our psychology, our weaknesses. As if to confirm her fears, the lights flickered and suddenly every screen in the communication center displayed the same message in perfectly formatted Galactic standard text. Hello, we would like to negotiate. The message was signed with a small drawing of a honey badger and a human child shaking hands. Commander Reth stared at the screen in disbelief. They learned to write in our language? No, sir, Dell said, checking his equipment. They hacked our translation software and used it to compose the message. And sir, they sent this through communication channels I didn't even know we had. Dr. Voss looked around the room at the faces of her colleagues. Every single one of them showed the same expression. The dawning realization that they were no longer the ones in control of this situation. What do you think they want to negotiate? Pip asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, the honey badger's head appeared in the ventilation grate above them. It looked down at the assembled aliens with obvious intelligence, then disappeared again. A moment later, another message appeared on the screens. Better food for everyone. Also, please fix the temperature in Section C. It's too cold for proper thinking. Dr. Voss couldn't help but laugh. Here they were, trying to turn Earth creatures into weapons, and the creatures were more concerned with improving the living conditions for everyone on the station. Sir, she said to Commander Reth, I think we need to seriously reconsider what we're dealing with here. These aren't just animals. They're not even just intelligent creatures. They're something entirely new. Admiral Kresh had seen combat on 17 different worlds and commanded fleets that could crack planets. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for the emergency briefing she was now attending via holographic transmission from Hegemony Command. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her voice cutting through the static. A research station with a budget equivalent to 3 planetary invasion campaigns has been compromised. By a small mammal and a juvenile from a primitive world? Commander Reth shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His once pristine uniform was wrinkled and his skin had taken on a grayish tint that suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. Admiral, the situation is more complex than the initial reports suggest. The situation, said Finance Minister Grell from his golden throne on the capital world, is that you have somehow managed to spend 8 million credits on a project that was supposed to cost 200,000. Our accountants are demanding explanations. Dr. Voss leaned forward, her tablet showing an endless scroll of damage reports. Honored Minister, the subjects have exceeded all projected parameters. Their capabilities are unlike anything in our databases. They're animals. Finance Minister Grell's four eyes bulged with indignation. How much damage can animals possibly cause? As if responding to his question, the lights in the conference room flickered and the station's intercom system crackled to life. Instead of the usual automated announcements, they heard what sounded like construction work, hammering, drilling, and the occasional satisfied grunt that could only come from a honey badger. That would be Subject B-47 improving our waste management system, Reth explained wearily. It's been working on infrastructure upgrades for the past week. Upgrades? Admiral Kresh raised an eyebrow. Unauthorized improvements to station efficiency, Dr. Voss clarified. The creature has somehow enhanced our power grid, optimized our air recycling, and created a more efficient water distribution network. Our life support systems are now running at 127% efficiency. That should be impossible, Admiral Kresh said. Many things should be impossible, Reth replied. Yet here we are. The holographic projector suddenly displayed a new image. Security Chief Borg looking harried and exhausted. Commander, we have a situation in Storage Bay 7. What now? Reth asked, though his tone suggested he already dreaded the answer. The honey badger has gotten into our equipment storage and appears to be building something. We're not sure what, but it's using parts from 17 different systems. Has it breached containment again? Sir, we stopped trying to contain it last week. It can escape from literally anything we've built. Now we just follow it around and try to minimize property damage. Finance Minister Grell's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. You stopped trying to contain your test subjects? Honored Minister, Dr. Voss said carefully. The honey badger has demonstrated the ability to escape from every containment system we've tried. Quantum locks, energy barriers, even a prototype temporal stasis field. It simply treats each new barrier as a puzzle to solve. And the human child. Sam remains in his cell voluntarily, Reth reported. But we've discovered that his cooperation is conditional. Conditional how? Dr. Voss activated her tablet and showed them recordings from Sam's cell. The boy was sitting calmly, but on the walls around him were intricate drawings that looked like engineering blueprints. He's designed improvements for our defensive systems, our navigation computers, and our food production facilities. When we asked him about the drawings, he said he was bored and thought he'd help us fix some problems he'd noticed. Admiral Kresh studied the blueprints. Even through the holographic display, she could see that they were sophisticated, beyond anything a primitive world should have been able to produce. Have you tested these designs? We implemented his food production improvements, Reth admitted. Efficiency increased by 340%, and the taste of replicated meals improved dramatically. Our crew morale has never been higher. A 12-year-old primitive improved your replication technology? Sir, we're beginning to suspect that Earth creatures don't fit standard classification categories. Their intelligence manifests in ways our testing protocols weren't designed to measure. Finance Minister Grell was scrolling through budget reports on his own display. 8 million credits. 8 million. Do you understand what that money could have purchased? We could have equipped an entire battle fleet. About that, Security Chief Borg interrupted. Sir, the honey badger has finished whatever it was building in Storage Bay 7. It's probably easier if you just see it. The display switched to show Storage Bay 7. In the center of the bay stood what looked like a small spacecraft, roughly the size of a shuttle but with design elements that didn't match any known technology. What is that? Admiral Kresh demanded. We're not entirely sure, Borg replied. It appears to be functional, but the design incorporates principles we don't recognize. The power source alone is generating more energy than should be possible from its size. Dr. Voss was studying her scanner readings. The power signature is incredibly clean. No waste energy, no harmful radiation. And the propulsion system... She paused, checking her readings again. This is impossible, but the readings suggest it could achieve faster than light travel, without using conventional jump drives. A honey badger built a starship? Finance Minister Grell's voice had risen to a squeak. It appears so, yes. Admiral Kresh was quiet for a long moment, studying the strange craft. Dr. Voss, in your professional opinion, what are we dealing with here? Admiral, I believe we're dealing with species that represent a completely different approach to intelligence and technology. They don't think like us, they don't solve problems like us, and they don't seem to be limited by the same constraints that affect other species. Are they dangerous? They could be. The honey badger has demonstrated the ability to access any system on this station, And Sam has shown he can understand and improve our technology faster than our best engineers. If they wanted to cause serious damage. She was interrupted by a gentle chime from the communication system. A message appeared on all screens simultaneously. We would like to go home now, please. Thank you for your hospitality. But Earth food is better. Also, your gravity is too heavy. P.S. We fixed your communications array. You're welcome. Salmon Badger Commander Reth stared at the message. They fixed our communications array? Communications Officer Dell's voice came over the intercom. Sir, I can confirm that our long-range communications are now operating at unprecedented efficiency. We're receiving signals from sectors that were previously beyond our range. Admiral Kresh was quiet for another moment. Commander Reth, what was the original purpose of this project? To develop Earth creatures as biological weapons for the hegemony. And what have you actually accomplished? Reth looked around the room at his exhausted staff, then at the budget reports showing costs that had spiraled completely out of control. We've learned that Earth creatures are far more dangerous than we initially calculated, but not in the way we expected. Dangerous how? Dr. Voss answered for him. They're dangerous because they're better than us. At everything. They solve our problems, improve our technology, and do it all while remaining completely friendly and cooperative. Admiral, if there are more creatures like this on Earth, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood the implications. Earth wasn't a source of biological weapons. Earth was a planet full of beings that could make the entire hegemony obsolete, simply by being themselves. Finance Minister Grell was still staring at the budget reports. 8 million credits, he whispered. And they want to go home. Emergency Director Thek had dealt with space pirate raids, reactor meltdowns, and even a diplomatic incident involving sentient gas clouds, but she had never been called to handle a complete institutional breakdown caused by excessive helpfulness. Yet here she was, reviewing reports that defied every principle of crisis management she had ever learned. The trouble had started when High Command authorized the use of experimental mind control technology on the Earth specimens. The orders came directly from the Supreme Council, who were growing impatient with the project's costs and lack of results. Just scan their brains and reprogram them, the orders had read. How difficult can it be? Dr. Voss had tried to explain why this was a terrible idea, but no one listened to warnings about creatures that had already exceeded every prediction. The mind control device was the most advanced piece of neural manipulation technology in the galaxy, capable of completely rewriting the thoughts and behaviors of any species. When they activated it on Sam, the results were immediate and catastrophic. The boy had been sitting quietly in his cell when the scanning beams engaged. For exactly 3.7 seconds, the machine attempted to map his neural patterns. Then every computer system in a 12-level radius crashed simultaneously. Emergency Director Thek was studying the technical reports when Chief Engineer Kala burst into her temporary command center, his 6 arms waving frantically. Director, we've lost all electronic systems in the central hub, Kala reported. Locks, monitors, life support regulation, gravity control, everything. The computer network is completely fried. What caused the failure? The human's brain, Kala said, still sounding disbelieving. When the mind control device tried to scan his neural patterns, the feedback loop was so complex it overwhelmed our entire computing infrastructure. Thek looked at the technical readouts. How is that possible? The human brain apparently processes information in ways that our computers literally cannot comprehend. When they tried to map his thought patterns, it was like trying to download an entire galaxy into a pocket calculator. Through the command center's windows, Thek could see chaos spreading throughout the station. With the electronic locks disabled, doors were opening randomly. With the monitoring systems down, they had no idea where anyone was. And with the gravity control offline, several sections were experiencing unpredictable gravitational fluctuations. Status of the test subjects? Thek asked. That's where things get interesting, Kala replied. The moment the computers crashed, every single containment cell in the facility opened. We currently have specimens from 47 different worlds wandering freely through the station. And the Earth creatures? Sam walked out of his cell, found the honey badger, and they began organizing the other specimens. They're not escaping, Director. They're coordinating a station-wide rescue operation. Thek activated her personal communicator, one of the few electronic devices still functioning. Security Chief Borg report. Director, the situation is... Borg paused, searching for words. The escaped specimens aren't attacking anyone. The Earth creatures have somehow convinced them all to work together to fix the station's problems. Fix them how? Well, the methane-breathing creatures from Swamp World are helping repair the air recycling systems. The rock eaters from Granite Prime are reinforcing damaged structural supports, and the energy beings from the Void Nebula are somehow restarting our power grid manually. Thek stared at her communicator. They're helping us? Yes, Director. The honey badger seems to be supervising the technical work, while the human child is handling logistics and communication. They've organized the most efficient repair operation I've ever seen. Dr. Voss entered the command center carrying a portable scanner. Director, I've been monitoring the situation from the observation deck. What we're seeing is unprecedented. Explain. The Earth creatures aren't just organizing the other specimens, they're teaching them to cooperate. Species that are naturally hostile to each other are working side by side. A hive-mind insect swarm is coordinating with individualistic predators. Creatures that communicate through pheromones are somehow sharing information with beings that exist as pure energy. How is that possible? Sam seems to understand each species' communication methods intuitively. He's acting as a universal translator not just for language but for entire ways of thinking. And the honey badger. Dr. Voss activated her scanner and showed them the readings. The honey badger is simultaneously coordinating 17 different repair operations across 12 levels of the station. It's keeping track of resource allocation, work schedules, and safety protocols for 47 different species with completely different needs and capabilities. Thek looked at the readings in disbelief. A small mammal is running a multi-species engineering project? A small mammal is running the most efficient multi-species engineering project I've ever seen. They've accomplished more in 6 hours than our regular maintenance crews manage in 6 months. A new voice came over the intercom. Sam's voice, speaking in perfectly clear galactic standard. Hello, this is Sam. We've finished repairing the main computer systems, but we left the containment controls offline on purpose. Everyone seems much happier when they can move around freely. Also, we fixed the food replicators in Section G. They were making everything taste like recycled metal. Chief Engineer Kayla was staring at his readouts in amazement. Director, the repairs they've made, they're not just fixing our systems, they're improving them. Power efficiency is up 200%. Life support is running smoother than it ever has. Even the waste management system is working better. Director Thek, Sam's voice continued over the intercom. We've been talking with everyone, and we think there might be some misunderstandings about this whole situation. What kind of misunderstandings? Thek asked. Well, everyone here was taken from their homes against their will, just like me and Badger. And none of us really want to be weapons. We just want to go home and be with our families. The intercom crackled, and they heard what sounded like various alien languages in the background, followed by Sam's voice again. Okay. Zrill points out that his species doesn't really have families in the way humans understand them. But he still wants to go back to his spawning pools, and the energy beings say they miss their nebula. The point is, everyone wants to go home. Dr. Voss was studying her scanner again. Director, the cooperation we're seeing down there is extraordinary. These species shouldn't be able to work together at all. But somehow the Earth creatures have found common ground that bridges completely incompatible ways of thinking. Director, Sam's voice continued, we've calculated that transporting everyone home would cost about 50,000 credits in fuel and supplies. That's much less than you've been spending on containment systems and repairs. Thek checked her budget reports. The project had now exceeded 12 million credits with no end in sight. Also, Sam added, we've made some improvements to your starship designs. The new propulsion system should cut your travel times by 70% and reduce fuel costs significantly. We left the blueprints in the main engineering database. Chief Engineer Kayla was already accessing the engineering systems. Director, these designs, they're incredible. If these calculations are correct, this could revolutionize space travel for the entire hegemony. We figured that was fair trade for the ride home, Sam said cheerfully. Badger says hello, by the way. He's busy teaching some of the other mammals how to open the really stubborn maintenance panels. Thek looked around her command center at the faces of her staff. Every single one showed the same expression, the dawning realization that 12 million credits had been spent to learn that Earth creatures were too helpful to weaponize. Sam, she said into her communicator, are you saying that you'll give us advanced technology in exchange for transportation home? Oh, we already gave you the technology, Sam replied. It seemed like the nice thing to do since you've been feeding us and everything. The transportation home would just be because it's the right thing to do. Dr. Voss laughed, a sound that held equal parts amazement and exhaustion. Director, I think we've just encountered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Dangerous how? They're so helpful that they make conquest completely pointless. Supreme Chancellor Vex stood in the most expensive meeting room in the galaxy, surrounded by holograms of the hegemony's most powerful leaders, trying to explain how a research project had somehow evolved into the greatest diplomatic crisis in their recorded history. Let me make sure I understand the situation, said Trade Minister Quinn, whose crystalline form sparkled with irritation. A 12-year-old human and a small mammal have convinced 47 different species to cooperate in ways that our diplomatic corps has been trying to achieve for centuries? That's correct, Chancellor Vex replied, consulting her notes for the 100th time. They've created what our xenosociologists are calling a trans-species cooperative collective, using communication methods we can't even identify, let alone replicate. Defense Minister Krath, a massive armored being from the war worlds, leaned forward menacingly. And our total investment in this project now stands at? 15 million credits, Finance Minister Grell whispered, his golden skin looking decidedly tarnished. Not including the cost of the transport ships, we'll need to return all the specimens to their homeworlds. Transport ships that now incorporate Earth-designed technology that makes our entire existing fleet obsolete, added Fleet. Admiral Kresh from her flagship Chancellor. Vex activated the main display, showing a detailed report from Research Station Omega-7. The situation has progressed beyond our control. The Earth creatures haven't just organized the other specimens. They've created a functioning interspecies society that is, by every measure we can calculate, superior to our own governmental systems. Superior how? Demanded Internal Security Director Yash. Crime rate 0. Efficiency ratings off the charts. Happiness indicators, the highest levels ever recorded in a multi-species environment. They've solved resource allocation problems that have plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Dr. Voss appeared via hologram from the station, looking tired but oddly peaceful. Honored leaders, I've been observing the collective for 2 weeks now. What Sam and the Honey Badger have accomplished challenges everything we thought we knew about civilization and cooperation. Explain. Chancellor Vex ordered. They've created a system where every individual contributes according to their natural abilities, while having their basic needs met regardless of their contribution level. The Rock Eaters handle heavy construction. The energy beings manage power distribution. The hive minds coordinate complex logistics. And the individual-minded species handle creative problem-solving. That's the basic theory behind the hegemony, Trade Minister Quinn pointed out. Yes, but they've made it actually work, Dr. Voss replied. There's no bureaucracy, no corruption, no inefficiency. Everyone understands their role and performs it willingly because they can see how it benefits the whole community. Defense Minister Krath's armor clanked as he shifted position. What's their military capability? That's the interesting part, Dr. Voss said. They don't have one. They've made military force irrelevant by making everyone want to participate voluntarily. Chancellor Vex felt a headache building behind her eyes. Dr. Voss, what exactly are the Earth creatures asking for? Transportation home for everyone who wants it, which is most of the specimens. A few have asked to stay and continue working together. And Dr. Voss paused, checking her notes. They've requested that we stop taking creatures from their home worlds without permission. They're making demands? Internal Security Director Yash sounded outraged. They're making suggestions, Dr. Voss corrected. Sam was very polite about it. He said they understand that we probably didn't realize how much everyone missed their homes, and that now that we know, they're sure we'll want to do the right thing. Fleet Admiral Kresh's image flickered as she accessed her ship's databases. What about the technology they've shared? Have we verified its functionality? The propulsion systems have been tested and confirmed, Chief Engineer Kayla reported from the station. Travel time to Earth is reduced from 6 months to 3 weeks. The power generation improvements could solve our energy crisis across all member worlds, and their communication technology could revolutionize trade and diplomacy. How much would similar technology cost us to develop independently? Finance Minister Grell asked. Kayla was quiet for a moment, running calculations. Conservatively, 200 billion credits over 50 years, assuming we could eventually figure out the underlying principles. And they gave it to us for free? Sam said it seemed rude not to share since we'd been so hospitable. Dr. Voss replied. The honey badger apparently agrees, though its communication is more limited. Chancellor Vex looked around the room at the faces of the hegemony's leadership. Options? We could keep them, Defense Minister Krath suggested. Force them to continue developing technology for us. Sir, Dr. Voss interrupted, I should mention that they've already considered that possibility. Sam said that if anyone tries to prevent them from going home, they'll be disappointed and would probably have to figure something else out. Is that a threat? Sir, given what they've accomplished in a few weeks with no resources and no preparation, I would not want to find out what they could figure out if they were actually trying to cause problems. Trade Minister Quinn's crystalline form chimed thoughtfully. What if we offered them citizenship? Full rights, positions in our government, access to our resources? I asked Sam about that, Dr. Voss replied. He said it sounded nice, but he misses his family and wants to show them the things he's learned. He also said the honey badger has important badger business to attend to on Earth. Important badger business? Chancellor Vex asked. He wasn't specific. Fleet Admiral Kresh cleared her throat. There's another consideration. If Earth produces more creatures like these two, and if they have the technology they've shared with us, they may not remain a primitive world for long. Meaning we may want them as allies rather than as specimens. Chancellor Vex was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. Earth was supposed to have been a source of biological weapons. Instead, they'd discovered a world that could teach them things they never knew they needed to learn. Dr. Voss, she said finally, ask Sam if he would be interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations between Earth and the hegemony. I already did, Dr. Voss replied. He said he's just a kid and that's probably something for grown-ups to decide, but he'd be happy to mention it to people when he gets home. And the honey badger? The honey badger made a sound that our translation software interpreted as, whatever Sam thinks is fine. Finance Minister Grell was running final calculations on his display. The cost of returning all specimens to their homeworlds, plus establishing diplomatic missions to each planet, would be approximately 12 million credits. Less than we've already spent on this project, Chancellor Vex noted. Yes, but the technology they've given us could generate trillions of credits in improved efficiency across all our worlds. It's the most profitable failed project in galactic history. Chancellor Vex made her decision. Authorization granted for full specimen return operations. Establish diplomatic contact with all represented worlds and... She paused, looking at the reports of everything Sam and the honey badger had accomplished. Create a new classification for Earth. Protected world. Friendly contact authorized. Formal alliance preferred. And the research project? Dr. Voss asked. Project officially terminated. Final report to read. Earth creatures unsuitable for military weaponization due to excessive helpfulness and superior technological capabilities. Recommend immediate diplomatic engagement. Dr. Voss smiled for the first time in weeks. Sam will be pleased. He's been asking when he can go home. Dr. Voss, Chancellor Vex said, in your professional opinion, what have we learned from this experience? We've learned that the most dangerous species in the galaxy aren't the ones with the biggest weapons or the most aggressive instincts. They're the ones who are so naturally cooperative and innovative that they make conquest pointless and war obsolete. Chancellor Vex nodded slowly. And what does that tell us about Earth? It tells us that Earth is either the safest planet in the galaxy to be friends with, or the most dangerous planet in the galaxy to be enemies with. And given what we've seen, I strongly recommend we choose friendship. As the meeting ended and the holograms faded away, Chancellor Vex remained in the expensive meeting room, looking out at the stars and wondering what other surprises might be, waiting on a small blue planet where honey badgers and human children could reshape galactic civilization in a matter of weeks. In the final report, which would become required reading at diplomatic academies across the galaxy, the conclusion was simple. Earth, approach with friendship, extreme caution, and very good insurance coverage.